amongst the top 10 women trolled in India, Priyanka Chaturvedi happens to be amongst the top 5. And it was, no, it just makes you feel that what am I bringing to the table for you all to put on so much hate out there? But then it also makes me believe that probably I'm doing something right for them to come in groups and gangs to troll me and to silence me.
What is that inner ladder, that strength, mindset that helped you stay focused on the women's elevation part?
My own strength comes from my own belief that, there's nothing that you cannot beat if you put your mind to it. Many times, many people tell me that why do you engage with certain people on social media? Why do you do this? I said, no one's coming to fight my fight.
Yeah.
I have to fight my own fight.
How can digital platforms serve as ladders for women leadership?
It shaped a lot of my career, has been shaped by these digital platforms. So I did not have access to the top leaders of this country. I did not have access to the senior leadership of the Congress party. I did not have access to, all the national leaders that you see. Never.
She's bold, fearless, and unapologetically outspoken. A Rajya Sabha MP and one of India's most impactful political voices, she has shattered patriarchal norms, stood tall against online abuse, and championed women's dignity and representation in the country's highest lawmaking platforms. A first-generation politician from Mumbai, she rose to public life during and after the 26/11 attacks, mobilizing support for affected families, which shaped her lifelong resolve to serve the nation. From demanding real seats at the table for women to challenging systemic silences, she isn't just part of the system, she is rewriting its rules. So, in today's 9th episode of the Snakes and Ladders show, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the powerhouse, the disruptor, the change maker, Priyanka Chaturvedi. Welcome to the 9th episode of the Snakes and Ladders show, Priyanka ji.
Thank you so much, Ronita.
It's an honor to have you here with us today. And ma'am, we would like to first take you through the round of the snakes question, which I'm sure you have watched the show that you know about.
I've lived it.
Wonderful.
So yeah, let's begin.
So we are extremely excited and we are curious to know what are the snakes that you navigated. My first question to you is to do with the first gen entry challenges, because politics is known to be highly male dominated, and that's what we see in our nation today. And you began politics without any political lineage. What were the biggest obstacles that you faced being a first generation woman in politics?
I think the biggest obstacle is first of our own minds. Will we be able to do it? Will we be able to survive this journey? Will I keep myself motivated enough to reach wherever I have thought of reaching? And I must say that for me, it was always about doing national politics. And if I get into political journey, it will be at the national level. So that was step one. The step two is convincing your family members. It is one of the most challenging tasks to come tell your family that, listen, this is something which I feel is my calling. I wish to do this. And also because of the uncertainty of it all. Unfortunately, in India and even across the world, women who are in place of politics, are actively engaged in politics, the easiest way to silence them is through character assassination, or to make them feel inadequate, to make them believe that it's not your space, to make them believe this is not your job. Like there are several such jobs where women are made to feel that, this is not for you, you can't do this. So breaking down those barriers, even in our own minds, our own conditioning from what we have seen, the families we've come from. So I think those two were bigger tasks. And then once that is tackled, then the rest becomes a little more easier, how to navigate with people and how to handle them. And also, I would say, I don't see that as a quality, but I can see across a lot of people. I'm a very open person. What you see is what you get. There's no shades of Priyanka Chaturvedi. Priyanka is what she is. However, I can read people well and their intentions well. So I have been blessed with some people who have helped in my journey. And I have also been blessed to find some snakes in my journey, which only motivated me further to keep proving them wrong.
Perfect. I would like to go back to your early career. And why I feel so inspired is you started your journey in the corporate world. You were the director of, a consulting brand, and then you moved into
And that
politics.
was my own brand.
Okay, but how did this calling happen? This transition, like from the corporate to the world of politics. How did you find your calling?
When I was in school and even in my college years, I was an introvert. I had stage fright. Public speaking was not my forte. I remember in grade 4, 5, my father was the chief guest on Hindi Day. And I was one of the people who was participating in that Hindi competition. We used to have this elocution competition. And I was so mentally well prepared that I'm going to rock in front of my father and my father is going to be proud of me. And I started off speaking, and after 4 sentences, I forgot what I was to say.
Okay.
And that, I think, was my first feeling that I'm inadequate. I won't be able to speak publicly. My father kept encouraging me that it happens, maybe because I was there and you were expecting so much, but I could never get out of it. So that was one sentiment. So my changing scenarios was challenging myself also. Why should I believe I'm inadequate? Why should I believe I can't do it? I have to prove sometimes your own inadequacy is wrong. And that is how it began. But more importantly, so after this episode, I don't remember ever wanting to participate in any elocution competition, any debates. When I was working with Channel V, anything that was related to, coming out and speaking, I used to find myself unable to do that.
Okay.
So those are challenges I had realized and internalized as well. That it's something which is a problem. But what changed my dimension was after the 26/11 terror attacks. I had 2 children. My daughter was pretty young. The 26/11 terror attacks happened. The biggest solace that I had in my life is that I could write, and I used to love reading. And those were 2 passionate areas which I had. So I may not have had many friends. I must have been an introvert, but books took me around the world and opened up my mind to several ideas. So I used to write a book blog, and some women bloggers got together and helped a lot of victims of 26/11 terror attacks, not the ones at Tata and the Taj and the Oberoi, but those who lost their lives at the CST station.
Yeah.
The taxi driver who lost his life from his way to the airport. So those were families that some of us handheld. And that kind of changed my purpose, where I used to feel that not even one person can make any change, not one person can make a change in a nation of 140 crore people. And then you suddenly realize that if 1 or 10 get together with a good intent, can probably reach out and help a few families. So that kind of changed my trajectory. I started to engage more with educating young minds, keeping them away from any negative, forces that kind of influence your minds. So that is how it began. And during that period, the Congress party was opening up their doors to people coming from absolutely non-political backgrounds. Mm-hmm. And I took it up as a challenge. I said, no political party in the world will open their doors for a non-political person, because, again, there are so many boundaries there.
Yes.
And I did end up winning one of the assembly delegates, which was a non-administrative profile. But it engaged me and it interested me, and I felt that this is something I can do. When I became a spokesperson, when the party nominated me as a spokesperson, because again, on social media, I could write, I did not have to engage, on media, etc. But when they made me a spokesperson, I used to find the least TRP channels, which could probably give me the confidence to be able to speak. And that is how I learned. So again, I've told you my inadequacies and how I overcame that. And today I do speak on public platforms. I do get trolled. I do get negative judgments. People judge my journey. People judge my knowledge. People judge everything. But it doesn't matter, because those are inadequacies of my mind which I overcame.
That's so powerful and inspiring, Priyanka ji. And I would now want to go back to some of your interviews where you did talk about motherhood guilt. And I think that's one very common phenomena that women across the globe, I think they go through this.
Right.
But when you've spoken about motherhood guilt, how did balancing political life and your parenting, present unique challenges? And specifically, when we look at women, what they encounter, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I still feel that in terms of balancing, I may not have done a great job at it. Because there were times when I was not attending my children's annual day functions. I have not attended, I hate to say it, but I've not attended a single PTM of my daughter's school, because work took me away. So that guilt is something I think every woman will live with all their lives. And I'd always, even if I'm adequate enough for my children and in their eyes, and they may not ever have a complaint with me, I have a complaint with myself. And in terms of PTM, but I did have some great support in my husband, who said, okay, since work is taking you away, I'll step in. And if he wouldn't have been an equally participative father or stepping up at the time when it mattered the most for our children, it would have been a much tougher act for me to balance. But in terms of how do I deal with that guilt, I think my children have helped me a lot in that journey by trying to reduce my guilt trip, and they have turned out to be responsible adults, and that gives me hope. I have seen moments where my son, when he was young, very high IQ child, but but he was also a very naughty child. We would not understand the challenge, because as soon as he would understand a concept, he would disrupt his entire class. The school used to come and tell us, and that is when we realized that he has an ADHD issue. So dealing with that and these new age problems that we see, maybe they are not new age, it's just that we are coming to understand that how do you handle your children better. For my daughter, when she was just 2 years old, I started to travel so much. I was in Delhi most of the time. And like I said, she always told me that, my friends ask me that we've not seen your mother. And I used to tell them that, listen, whenever they can't see your mother, please ask them to switch on some television on mute mode, so that they don't have to listen to the fighting that happens on television. But ask them to see it on mute mode and tell them that this is why my mother stays, is away. So she also had these learning issues, etc. I am opening up for the first time about this, but I think people need to understand that every woman, or every male for that matter, when they choose public life, it's not like all their private life and their challenges are something different. They're dealing with the same challenges.
So true. Yes.
So just be a little kind to each other. We also here with the same challenges that you all face, but somehow we are judged harsher. So yeah, this guilt trip will never leave me, and I don't think till the end of my life it will leave me. But it's just something that I hope that my children have seen me as an example of speaking your mind, standing up for what you believe in, and absolutely committed to the cause you believe in.
From the heart of my heart, I'm sure your children are very proud of you.
I hope so. They keep telling me this, but I sometimes feel they're trying to reduce my guilt. But I think family support helps a lot in overcoming that guilt.
I'm sure. We were talking about online trolling, and I have seen that you have been really resilient, in facing them. And I believe that today online trolling is one of the easiest way to attack, because you can do things behind the shade of a lot of other stuff, and, people can say a lot of things. And I am pretty, I would say I'm quite taken aback with the way I have seen you responding or, facing those online trolling. Now, as a prominent leader of our nation today, you've faced abusive trolling. And I really want to know from you today, because that's going to help our audience, a women audience, that how have you dealt with the emotional toll? And, how did it affect your sense of safety?
That's a long one. Okay, it began with, since I was not in politics and I chose to take those baby steps into politics at a time when the Congress was perhaps one of the most, hated party at that point in time, and defending it on all platforms. So obviously the hate came my way. But there was a study which was done, I can't recall who did that study, which said that amongst the top 10 women trolled in India, Priyanka Chaturvedi happens to be amongst the top 5. And it was it just makes you feel that what am I bringing to the table for you all to put on so much hate out there? But then it also makes me believe that probably I'm doing something right for them to come in groups and gangs to troll me and to silence me. And that's how bullies work, right? Bullies work to silence your voices. And I also realized the nature of trolling. Again, there was another investigative story that was done by one digital channel, or was it a news channel, which said that there are agencies at work, social media agencies at work, who you can hire, who do these group trolling, mass trolling, and they try to silence you. And I realized that, I'm doing something right for them to get so annoyed with me and continue to troll me, to sit and judge me, to sit and do whatever they want. So they are given a task. They are assigned. They get money to troll me. I'm happy that they're employed. I'm happy they get their money from trolling. And if it is me who's the person who's at the receiving end, it only makes me happy that at least they can feed their family by trolling me. honestly, I have no bad feelings about them. Please do what you want to do because it's your source of income. What I feel, where I draw the line, which I did recently, when you start to bring in my family into, or you make my space unsafe. Uh, uh, they have tried to dox me. They have tried to put my number out there on public domains. Of course, as a member of parliament, there are numbers out there. Usually, they're not your personal numbers.
Yeah, true.
There are in some spaces, yes, I put my personal number also out there. My number hasn't changed over the years, so it could happen. But that does not give you the right to just take it up from a site and just put it there. Because it's mandated for a public person, as in those who are in the parliament or the assemblies, to put it out there, does not mean you use that and put it on social media platforms. So when you cross that boundary, when you cross that line of having a different point of view, attacking me, to starting to look at expanding it further towards my family.
Yes.
That is the line I draw. And then if you draw my family into it, then there's nothing worse of me that you won't find. And I think that is every mother, every woman, wherever, or every person. I'll do anything to safeguard my family. And so when this happens, that is when I have taken the course of law also, where I have filed police complaints, where I've ensured that the person who's behaving like that understands what they're doing. And let me also give you one example of, there was this entire Sulli by Bulli deals issue that had come up,
Okay.
where women from the minority community who are extremely vocal and were speaking against the power structure were usually, so they had started this fun activity. So this was the idea of fun, where they were taking their personal photographs and they were bidding on that person, a woman. It was the most shameful exercise I have ever seen. And it was happening with women who are coming from minority, who have strong voices. So they were being bid at, she doesn't deserve, on their physical attributes, and discussing openly. It was a very shameful piece of thing. So when I was in the parliament, I raised it to the IT minister. IT minister gave me his word that he would do something about it. Nothing happened. So at that point in time, we were in power in Maharashtra. And I reached out to Mumbai police. So first there was a bully by, then there was a Sulli deal, something like that. Because he could not act on one, there was a second which came up. So that is when I approached the Mumbai police, and Mumbai police, what the Delhi police could not cracked it in one day.
Okay.
And we got people who were behind this arrest. But what happened is, I was shocked to realize that these were 23-year-olds who are pursuing their engineering degree. They do not know the consequences of what they're doing. So
yeah.
for their bit of fame and fun and to sit and troll a woman, they were actually crossing boundaries of law. And that, if you're not aware, then I'll make you aware.
Absolutely.
And digital societies are now a representation of civil societies. So how you behave in civil space, in in the real world, real-time world, you will have to behave like that.
Absolutely.
In the digital space as well, which people don't understand those boundaries, especially the young. So I have resorted to law. I've ensured that the person faces the law that prevents them from doing what they're doing and safeguards my space. And I would encourage every woman that if a person is fighting you on issues, trolling you on your issue, your political space, your political opinions, fine, deal with it. But if they're crossing a certain boundary of safety and your family and your private space, teach them a lesson that they will learn for life. Yeah.
Thank you for inspiring us, Priyanka ji, because I think these words that you've spoken and the exemplification that you have, put forward in this episode, of course, will teach women like us that when it comes to your loved ones, when it comes into your territory, silence is not going to solve anything.
Absolutely. Your private space is yours, your family space is yours, safe spaces are yours. You try and breach those boundaries, I will fight. You fight me on other platforms, I'll continue to engage. But the minute you do this, and I'll continue to deal with it, but when you cross those boundaries, then there's a law mechanism that I will bring into action.
Absolutely. I think that's really, really very inspiring. One of the topics that I definitely want to ask you is the gender bias in candidate selection. I mean, when I was looking at the government that got formed for Maharashtra, what disappointed me was the women representation in the government. And I'm saying it because, I do watch the national news, the state news very closely. You've mentioned that women often get weaker seats. And how does this systemic bias that we see in politics, it impacts a woman's rise in this field?
What is very interesting, as well as there's a dichotomy that exists in our nation, that when our Constituent Assembly was discussing reservations for women, there were women, 14 members of the Constituent Assembly who were women, who opposed it strongly, who said we are giving women equal rights as a citizen, which many advanced nations had not done. You know, America had to fight, women of America had to
Yes.
fight, women in European countries had to fight for their voting rights. Even in some cases in the US, which I got to know much later, it took them years to own a credit card or to be financially independent, while India was giving them everything, right? So they began with a dream and a vision that women will have equal spaces. So when our constitution came about, and I'm so proud of the constitution that India has managed to accomplish and give to the world to see and follow. However, in India, the dream with which it began, we could not live up to it, and there were barriers created, and barriers again, and then decades and decades of that, of conditioning that no, you are not capable. Like I initially began, bad world, not for women, won't be able to get anywhere, don't do it, let's go for a more stable option, a more peaceful option, an option where your career trajectory is more or less defined, that if you start as an executive, you become an assistant manager,
Yes.
and then the senior level.
Yeah, yeah.
Politics is none of it. You don't even know what is coming your way the next day. And I have witnessed that. I have seen those highs, I've seen those lows. So nobody really encourages that. Women were sometimes not up to it, not financially independent, for them to fall back on their families to choose. Then, of course, the entire idea of bringing women who were perhaps understood this space, and that is why it fell back to families. So families that have seen politics happen around them, they usually know the way ahead.
Yeah.
So that is how barriers were created, and now we are in the eighth decade of our democracy, and we've still not been able to cross those barriers. The representation of women in the Rajya Sabha is so poor. The winning candidates in the Lok Sabha has come down
Yeah,
of women.
yeah.
So that is a challenge. So when you see a cabinet is usually a reflection of what you are seeing in the larger assemblies and parliaments. We have a reservation in place, something that our forefathers had never envisioned would happen, but we have had to bring it in. So hoping this would change the trajectory
Yes.
of seeing more women in those spaces. But even in parliament and politics, I have seen, for me, gender parity is very important, above my political stances, above our politics, about our political identities. For me, gender should be an issue which goes beyond our politics. But unfortunately, women within political systems also usually do not prioritize it because of the political spaces they have. Women who are already in politics are fighting over the same share of the pie. I've always said this: push the share of the pie to make it bigger. That's what we should be pushing for. Why should we be restricted at 33%? Let's fight for 50%.
Yeah.
Why should
Yes.
even be restricted to 50%? Let's go to 51%. Because we women are capable.
Yes.
We are underestimating our own strengths. So yeah, those are systemic challenges. But now, because women voters are coming out to vote in far larger numbers, they have a mind of their own. They are more committed as voters. They also decide on the basis of the promises and
Yeah.
the keeping up those promises. That's why women have become an important constituency for political parties to address.
True, true.
And that is when you will now start to see a lot many changes.
I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm
Priyanka.
always
Yes.
positive that the fight will lead
Definitely.
us somewhere to some successes.
Definitely. I think we've created history in the past. There are more histories that women can create if they come together.
Absolutely,
I think that's really
absolutely.
important. And you've touched the right chord today. So I will now talk about a little bit about the representation gap that, even you have been speaking about, that only if we look at the committee that was formed, there was only one woman that point of time who was there in the marriage age committee.
The women. Okay, that's the health and standing committee.
Yes, yes.
Health and family welfare.
And how does such underrepresentation in certain critical and such crucial committees, itself become a snake in policy making of our country?
So I had written about it, that
Yes.
it's unfair that we don't have equal representation to decide this. And again, I was against the idea of raising the age limit to 21. Because if at 18 you can decide to vote, at 18 you can even decide who to marry. right? So and again, as a woman who understands biological reproduction, etc., there is a certain age barrier, right? So
Yeah.
it's like at 18, it should be the woman's choice. You don't dictate as per law. You know, how much will you interfere in people's choices? So there has to be more women representation. But the nature of the standing committee is such that they go to political parties, and depending on their bench strength, their representation is decided. How many MPs from a particular party can represent in various standing committees. On the basis of that, it was unfortunate that there was only one woman MP, and it wasn't, again, something that is usually overlooked. Okay, we've given this bill for discussion in so and so committee, did not realize that there was very severe underrepresentation. So underrepresentation is a challenge which you see in the parliament, and then it reflects in your standing committees, it reflects in your representation in the cabinet, and it's again, like I said, it's systemic.
Yes.
So by opening the doors for women in parliamentary spaces and assembly spaces is the only way it can be addressed. Encouraging daughters that politics and policy is a space that gives you the power, and not just the power in a negative way. It gives you the power and the strength to implement your ideas that will move an entire generation towards another space, contribute to a nation which is self-empowered, which is independent, which has, equal for all. Till we don't encourage that, we are going to find it a bit of a challenge to get the right talent as well.
I couldn't have agreed more on this, Priyanka ji. And when we talk about double standards, the gender double standards, and I think you've been very, very vocal about, these issues as well. So from your experience, I'm going to ask you this because I have faced this myself. How are assertive women labeled negatively in politics compared to men? Because I've seen that in corporate world, but I want to know from you, how has it been in politics?
We've seen it in every layer of our being, right? Ever since we are born to where we reach. And you called me a senior leader. I'm sure you'll get trolled for it also, because they'll say, "Oh, when did she become a senior leader?" So we women face it at every point in time. We see certain biases. We see certain barriers that are, sometimes out of conditioning, out of deliberate moves happen. How do you deal with it is something that I keep fighting about. So many times, if I see a panel which is all male, I don't find myself, I don't hold back and put it out there. Many people tell me, why are you naming and shaming? I said, till I don't name and shame, they will not be conscious of the fact. And also people who are organizing such events where they keep all males, people who are accepting these invites do not realize whether there is a gender balance. And I have seen many organizations which keep an eye on this. So become a little more conscious when you're talking about your workspaces becoming more equal. Then the programs that you do, the discussions that happen, make it your conscious choice to bring in women. And if you don't do it, I will call you up. It's as simple as that. I think it's one woman standing for another.
Yeah, yes. I think that's one of the greatest lessons we women have to learn.
Absolutely, stand up for each other.
Stand up for each other.
And then we can keep fighting each other. First, let's stand up for each other.
Yes,
I've seen this. It's such a huge problem that women are pulling each other down. Simply because, like I said, we are fighting over the same piece of pie.
Absolutely.
What we're not realizing is that if we increase our share a lot more, let's first fight in increasing, right? And then let's fight it out.
Exactly.
Let's deal with who will handle which constituency, right? Whether I should be the Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, Assembly, Municipal Corporation, we'll fight that a later fight. But first is equity.
Equity, absolutely. That's an important point made. And I'm going to call our audience today that, what you hear in this show, please, think about it. It's time that we actually delve into it. We think about it.
Absolutely.
But fantastic insight shared by you, Priyanka ji. Really, really great hearing this coming from a powerhouse like you.
Thank you.
Okay. We will now move on to the ladders segment of the talk show, Priyanka ji. And
you didn't ask me to name the snakes, which is okay.
Which I will do in the rapid fire
I will write
round.
in my book.
And I think you should, because you're such a prolific writer.
Okay?
I will do it. This is a deal.
But no, you saved me.
Yeah,
and some content you've left for my book.
But I'm really looking forward when you decide to write that.
When I retire.
Maybe we'll have a mega episode when you're going to name the snakes.
When I retire.
Okay, so we'll now move to the ladder segment, Priyanka ji, and like snakes, I'm sure that you've navigated the ladders were there in your life, okay, whether you created them yourselves or there were people around you as a support system who helped you climb up, your success story. Now, we are really keen to know that who mentored and supported you when you were climbing up the your political journey, your career, and how did you translate that into your own ladder of success?
So for me, it's always been my family which I first run to anything. Most of the times, I tell them that I will decide on something and I will face the consequences of it. I don't want you all to be the equal consequence bearers.
Okay.
That is something I'm very clear about. It's my decision. I take total responsibility for it. If it's good, good. If it's bad, bad. It's my problem. But yes, the biggest support system, I've always and always fallen back on my family. I come from a big family. My parents, we have four sisters and a brother. So I never felt the need of friends. They were my friends, my family, my secret keepers, my advisors, my supervisors at time. And my parents have been big support. My in-laws have been a huge support. So whenever I was traveling, one of them used to come down to Mumbai and ensure that both of the children had somebody or the other taking care of them. And of course, my husband. He's, I would say a lot of the context sometimes that comes in my argument, especially the historical perspective, because he reads a lot and he's, I would say, much more knowledgeable, and he'd love to hear that because I never admitted that ever. So he does bring in that context in some of my debates on certain issues. So again, they have been the biggest ladders, and I think if it was to start at zero, it would go up to 75 because of them.
Wow. Okay. That was really heart touching. And when we talk about personal resilience, despite all the challenges that, you have risen, what is that inner ladder, that strength, mindset that helped you stay focused on the women's elevation part?
Right. I think it comes very being the kind of personality I am, and like I said, my own personal challenges that no, I can't overcome this. No, I can't speak in a public platform. No, I cannot speak to media. I hesitate to speak. So till now, I kept telling people that my Marathi is weak, which it certainly is, because I believe as a person who's a communicator, the language and the grammar, everything has to be in its place. The accent, the grammar, the words, everything has to be in its place. Even a 40% is not good enough. So I would put myself on a scale of 45 to 50% on a language, and I won't speak it confidently till I'm not mentally satisfied. So that is also a challenge, thanks to some trolling that I managed to overcome very, very recently. And this is what happens. This is how I function. Anyone who tries to pull me down on certain issues, I come back fighting harder. And it's, if my husband is going to hear this, he's like, why is it always on me? Because I rarely do that. But I'm just trying to give you a perspective to every woman that it is well within you, that Shakti is inside you, it resides inside you. You just need to understand it. And I've told you my failures, and I'm being very open about it. And I'm sure many women would understand what their failings are. But your failings are not full stop, they're pauses. You can overcome it. So my own strength comes from my own belief that there's nothing that you cannot beat if you put your mind to it.
Yeah.
And keeping myself motivated that every time someone tries to pull you down, you come back stronger, hitting harder. And again, many times, many people tell me that why do you engage with certain people on social media? Why do you do this? I said, no one's coming to fight my fight.
Yeah.
I have to fight my own fight. You want to join my journey, become an ally, great. Otherwise, I think even if I'm making 0.1% difference to someone else's life, I would say it's a life well achieved. As simple as that.
Wow. That's so very deep
Am I
and
being
touching.
Unnecessarily full of myself?
No. I have a separate, aspect on this. I think women need to talk about themselves. We don't promote ourselves that much.
Yeah. No, I think I say it from more perspective of what I have been through.
Yeah.
Right, and from my own space, like I said, I come from a big family. We would not travel much because big family cannot coordinate everyone's timelines together. So where was I learning from? What was I getting my inspiration from? So that is how, if perhaps even 10 women connect with it, would be well worth it, no?
Absolutely. And we're talking about your journey today, Priyanka ji. So
Ha,
it
ha,
has to be
so yeah, my
about
husband
you.
should let me be all about myself.
Absolutely. I'm sure he'll be quite happy, watching this episode when it
No,
comes
he
out.
makes me very conscious at times. Sometimes when I go into this trip, he keeps me grounded. So sometimes when I go on this trip, no, I did this way. Calm down. It's part of your job.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's also a good one.
No, it's important.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
important
yeah,
because to be grounded, everything is very transitory.
yeah.
Everything is very temporary. Not everything that you have today will be with you tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And
True.
that is another thing that I've learned from Bhagavad Gita. I'm a big spiritual person, follower of Bhagavad Gita. I believe everything has its own space and time. So he keeps me grounded. Okay, Zada hawa mein mat udod.
Okay, great. But I'm now going to be talking a little bit about the media and the communication part, in your journey, because media help amplify your voice. How can digital platforms, please share your thoughts about it, that how can digital platforms serve as ladders for women leadership?
I think they are very important platforms because nobody can deny you your space. Nobody can control that space. It's for you to experiment, it's for you to grow, it's for you to use effectively. And let me also tell you about my own journey through and how it shaped a lot of my career has been shaped by these digital platforms. So I did not have access to the top leaders of this country. I did not have access to the senior leadership of the Congress party. I did not have access to all the national leaders that you see. Never. I would have never thought of it. A Mumbai girl who's just not interested in politics, but is suddenly interested, taking a few baby steps. Everyone's immediate circle makes you feel okay that you've achieved the pinnacle, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I'm engaging with my member of parliament, if I'm engaging with my senior most leadership in Mumbai, that's it. But like I said at the beginning of my interview, that for me, my aspiration was if I ever contribute, it would be nationally, of course, rooted in my state and my contribution towards that. But it would be at a platform where I can raise it to create more, awareness or voices. So that is how I started to use digital media. I was one of the first movers, even from the Congress party at that time, on Twitter. I kept telling everybody how important that platform is, but nobody was listening to me.
Yeah.
Everybody thought they could, overlook that platform. But then I was looking at Sri Narendra Modi, who was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, using it so impactfully where he bypassed broadcast media, he bypassed print media, and the certain narratives that were around him to create a whole new platform for what he is bringing to the table or what his vision for this nation is. And people started to, you know, started to join him and to believe in him. And so he basically, what I'm trying to say is bypassed all of that.
Yeah.
The people who were the gatekeepers of being able to communicate. So similarly, I was being able to bypass that, and it was giving me a very independent vocal voice and a voice that mattered.
Yes.
And I knew I was effective with my communication. Like I said, I read and I write. That those were my strengths. So I knew what was my. So I would tell every woman, know your strength. If let's say you're not confident about what you're putting out there, no harm in first researching what you're putting out there.
True, true.
Also understand what is your fight. What is that one thing that you want to bring to the table to your audience? Understand that is a platform. And what are the kind of people you wish to attract? Are you attracting them to your brand? Are you attracting them to your, to your thoughts? Are you attracting them to a particular idea? Then, design it around that. Your communication should be around that. So that is how it helped me. So it's a double-edged sword. So if my opinion started to get more followers, it also started to get some haters. And again, all haters are not some trolls. There are some who may have a difference of opinion from you.
Yes,
So
yes.
engage with them. Don't dismiss them. They come with their opinion. Those who come with an unread opinion, I don't even engage with them. But someone who is giving me a very strong argument, it also opens up my mind to what their thought is.
Yeah.
Just don't dismiss a thought. I've seen this with a lot of liberals, those gatekeepers of liberal values, who also many times slam me. But they're also equally intolerant to an idea. Listen to a person. It does you no harm. So again, so this is my point of view that digital platforms are extremely empowering. They're democratic. You can use them, but once you know how to effectively use those tools, block those noises you don't want to hear.
Yeah,
Avoid those
yeah,
voices.
yeah.
But engage in a wholesome conversation and conversation where someone has a differing point of view. But please, please know what you are bringing to the table. Till you don't have a focused point of view, then there's nothing really you can attract.
Absolutely. Very important point made by you, Priyanka ji. And I think it's definitely useful insights for women out there
Right.
who are probably trying to find their calling, their brand.
Yeah.
They would like to be more aware of how they can
Yeah, I've
use the
seen
digital
women
platforms.
do exceedingly well on Instagram with their, if they're selling a brand, if they're establishing their brand, and they've opened their doors to so many opportunities. Again, find a platform which you wish to communicate through. Just don't be on a platform and feel frustrated about it. Be
Yeah.
on a platform which you think is the right way to, like I said, be a platform which can attract more people to what you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's so many of them
There's so many
in
of them
today's
now,
world,
yeah.
of course. Yes. Twitter, I think, this is something that you have harped now.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely oblivious of the impact of Twitter, honestly speaking. And I'm just going to admit it. But mostly on other social media platforms like an Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, those things have been there. But Twitter, I think now that I hear from you, I'm definitely going to try my
I'll
hand.
give you an example, my own example. So I'm a Mumbai person, just about trying to figure out. But I was also writing a column for DNA at that time. It was a mommy column. I was talking about my challenges as a mother. And I used to engage a lot. And the first movers, from political point of view, were very well-established politicians. One was Shri Shashi Tharoor.
Yes.
One was Shri Narendra Modi. One was Shri Umar Abdullah. Now, Umar Abdullah ji was the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. And he used to engage regularly in a banter. There used to be a banter on Twitter. I have seen those days as well. So when I first got a reply from Umar Abdullah ji for the first time, I was like, wow, like it was an achievement. And then he started to follow. I was like, oh my God, the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir is now following me on Twitter. I was like feeling so, so those are the barriers that you manage to break down. So that's a platform which I think it has become my source of news information. It has become my source for putting out my point of view. And of course, also engaging with other people with a differing point of view. So that is how it works. And I would highly recommend, I mean, all platforms are equally good. I love Instagram personally. I get to put my photographs there. I get to share my family photographs there without someone coming and telling me, "Arey, तुम्हें ये करना चाहिए, तुम बुढ़ी लग रही हो आंटी, आंटी तुम red lipstick क्यों पहनी हो, आंटी तुमने साड़ी क्यों पहनी हुई है?" It happens. Once I was, I was
oh my gosh.
I was thrown out of the parliament. I was suspended for one entire session because I was talking about, I went to the well of the house, and that was the first time ever I had gone to the well of the house. And they chose to suspend all those people who were in the well of the house. And someone had given me a piece of paper and very respectfully had torn it and had kept it aside. But they claimed that, oh, she threw it up in the air and all that, which I'd never done. And it was a blank piece of paper. But they said, oh, she tore the bill and everything. And I was suspended for an entire session, me and 13 MPs. So there was a photo where I was sitting all by myself and I put it out on Twitter. And they're like, oh, look, she's wearing a red lipstick. She's not feeling ashamed at all. She has shamed the nation. She has got suspended. Like, what does my lipstick have to do with my feeling ashamed?
I actually,
I'm sorry, I had to bring this up because I was trying to give you the difference between one platform and another. So choose your platform. Right? So Instagram gives me happiness.
Okay.
Of course, people have started to come and troll, but again, doesn't impact me. Bolo jo bolna hai. Because I get to share my people, my things that I love to do, my family, and take it, leave it, hate it, comment on it. It doesn't matter, but it gives me that space. I don't use Facebook at all, very rarely. There's a platform called Threads. LinkedIn has become all about getting gyan. Everybody's a gyani there. But X is one platform which I feel that you can work on it.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing your candid experiences. I think those
are my experiences. Let me say this.
Exactly.
Different for everybody.
Yeah, I'm sure. But they were really, really nice and, very heartfelt.
And that's one important ladder, by the way.
Yeah.
Social media.
Of course. I definitely agree with you on that. So your leadership style, I would now want to, go back a little bit on that. From that, all these years that, from the time that you started till now, how has your leadership style evolved, especially, as someone leading with empathy and strength in a competitive environment?
I think the only thing it has made me is resilient. And in terms of being able to convince people that it is more about your own conviction and resilience to a space which is so uncertain. And uh, the journey for me has always been about what have I come to this space for, and will continue to be about that. And for me, empowering women to be able to, again, my parents came from Uttar Pradesh. Even Uttar Pradesh comes from a very strong patriarchal background. My father would not had not he was absolutely against my idea of going out and working. Amongst the four sisters, I was the first. I'm the third in line. But I was the first to step out of the house and work. My father, it took my grandmother, two women, my grandmother and my mother, to convince him that it's absolutely all right for her to start working, and it's absolutely all right for her to be able to decide for herself. So coming from that space, and then my father being just so proud of my entire journey. So from a space of why would you go out and work, because everybody समाज से बोलेंगे क्यों इनको जाकर बाहर काम करना है. I've just recently read about a girl in Haryana, a tennis state level player, shot dead by her father because he couldn't handle her success, and people started to taunt him about he living off her money, which
Yeah.
is not actually the truth.
Truth.
So being impacted by so much what the society is throwing at you and safeguarding yourself from that. So moving from that to where I am, so I do understand women from across the country face these challenges. So if you have, so that has become one of my main points. And women at every intersection, you take climate change, you take digital spaces, you take senior level positions, women impacted by war,
Yeah.
women impacted by the geopolitics of it all.
Yes.
It is always the women, and they exist at every intersection. So if you, for me, that has been the cause of raising that voice. And if there are not enough women voices which are rising to speak on it, then if I'm the only voice, I will continue to do it. So that's the conviction. So leadership also has to be about conviction, what you're bringing to the table, and sticking by it. So empathy, understanding of the challenges, understanding also of your strengths, and how to use what levers when. But most important is your communication. I will say this every single time someone tells me, it's always what you communicate and how you communicate.
Communicate. Absolutely. Hats off to you, Priyanka ji.
No, not
for
really. It's just,
sharing such, valuable inputs. And I think it comes from a space where you've had a
which you've traversed, which I've traversed.
You've traversed, yes, and you've had your share of challenges, but you've emerged out of it, victorious.
Not
Now,
really. There's still a long way to go.
Yeah, but you found,
And many challenges
Yes.
still exist.
Yeah, but I'm sure you will navigate them as
Hopefully.
well. Yeah. Now, when we talk about women in decision making, and really want to know that you've argued for reserving leadership roles in politics and corporate boards. What practical ladder building policies do you see as essential for women's elevation in power corridors?
I think the most important part is for political parties to realize that they need to have their own committees or their power structure to be more accommodating to women. You cannot go scrambling looking for women candidates when the election comes. You have to build on that leadership. So when I joined Shiv Sena, when it was an undivided Shiv Sena, I still continue to call it the Shiv Sena because the true Shiv Sena belongs only to the Balasaheb Thackeray ji and Aditya Thackeray ji. They encouraged the idea of creating a pipeline of women leadership. We have many women at the local body level. We do not have women at the state assembly level and the parliamentary level. So we were trying to create a pipeline where we move them from corporation aspiration to assembly to the parliament. So if we have something like that pipeline, unfortunately we've not had any corporation elections to women to feel vindicated. Hopefully that will happen soon. But to create those pipelines, every organization should be able to do that. If you look at the two national parties, the Congress party and the Bharatiya Janata Party, they have a separate women's cell. Why do you need a separate women's cell? Why can't you accommodate them in the main cell?
Main cell.
Because what happens usually is that when you have a separate cell, for women to transition from the separate cell to, within the main body, is a there's a gap that exists. Both the parties. I'm addressing both the parties here. Even my party has a separate women's wing. But we try to make it like this, that when you are at a Shakha level also, there's one woman and there's one male who are in the same position.
Okay. Okay.
We try to do that as much as we can. So that's a gap which can probably be handled.
Yeah.
And so create a pipeline, know your women leaders, trust them to be able to win you elections. The biggest failing that women have had is for political parties to believe that they cannot win.
Win. Correct.
So let's give them the seats which are the losing seats.
Yeah.
So, okay, if they manage to win, good, we will tom-tom about it. And that we gave them an opportunity. And also consciously be aware of the fact that in times to come, political parties are also being judged for the number of women that they're putting out there.
Yes. I think these are great interventions that you've just spoken about. I would now want to come to that initiative that's very close to your heart, that you founded the Pratham initiative to mentor young women in politics. And very few leaders would do that, honestly. How has it helped elevate women into decision-making roles that you must have, witnessed? And how do you think it has inspired hope for more women in political leadership?
So, Pratham was something that was Sri Aditya Thackre's idea, where he felt that we need to have women from all backgrounds to start contributing if they're interested in politics, to be able to contribute in some effective way, and also have the courage of conviction, because many times women come with a political point of view but they're silenced very fast. And there was actually a study done by Observer Research Foundation which said only 9% women in the country, at that time, I think it was 6-8 years ago, and only 9 to 11% women on social media platforms express their political opinion openly. Usually women try to avoid it simply because it brings them trolling, it brings them unnecessary mental health, mental stress. So they choose not to discuss politics, they just quietly go vote and they do what they have to do. But we need to change that. We need to have women coming and speaking about their politics and their political choices out of conviction. So Pratham was something which I was giving back to my own belief that we need to have women in those spaces. So when Aditya spoke about it, it was something I connected very well with. And what we did was we brought in women who were just graduating, and they had some interest in public policy space. They wanted to work closely with politicians and to be able to have that background to hold on to their opinions. So what we did, how we designed it was that first we train them, give them basic training on how to engage with parliamentarians or assembly level. I got them to only work alongside women members of parliament for a particular session, and after which they would intern with Observer Research Foundation, who would give them a thorough training on research and how to make an effective argument. So even when they step out after the 6-month course, certificate course, even once they step out, they are able to hold on to their own opinions. So, and they can also choose which space they want to go to. They want to get into politics. They know how the political system, at least the parliament, works because they've interned with a member of parliament. If they want to go into the policy space, they've got an option to see how Observer Research Foundation works in various levels. And if nothing at all, they want to get into corporate jobs. It's also, by the way, in the corporate space also, it is becoming a very important space.
Yes.
For people to navigate geopolitics, political, policies, etc., and political ideologies, etc.
Yes.
So that also they can contribute effectively. So I unfortunately had to stop after the third year because we saw how Mahua Moitra ji was thrown out of the parliament. She was disqualified, and the way it was done. And so many people started to have, women especially, started to, feel that it's not worth getting into that trouble by taking in interns. We'll manage on our own. Or only take interns that come from the channels which are established, which I totally appreciate, because we've made our journey through a hard space. We cannot just lose it.
Correct.
Mahua had the courage of conviction to fight it out. Many women may not have that kind of courage and that kind of support coming from the political party. So anyway, keeping that aside, but I had to stop it because there were not many responses coming to taking these interns. And but however, it is something I strongly believe in, that every woman who has traversed this journey, even a male MP who's who'd want to come and contribute to something like this, it will at least send out women who are confident, who can hold on to their own political opinions, they can hold on to their own ideas of policy, And it's very encouraging to see that these girls have gone on to do their masters abroad. They've got scholarship in public policy from abroad, some well-known established institutes overseas. When I was in London, when was part of the Operation Sindoor
Yeah,
parliamentary
yes,
delegation,
yes.
one of them came to me. Unfortunately, I could not meet her, but she went on to King's College London, and she's doing exceedingly well. There are some who went on to Zomato and their public policy division.
Wow.
Then I think they had some zero hunger campaign or something like that that began. Some were interning there, some were absorbed by ORF. So it was satisfying to see that they have managed to this 6 month certificate program, which came out of my own belief that we need to have more empowered women holding on to their own, had paid off.
Yeah.
I just wish that I can continue this in some time, in the near future. But it's an idea worth nurturing.
Absolutely. I think it's fantastic, having women, let's say, molded or kind of training them to take up the
Yes.
roles of maybe future political leader. I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic, and it's phenomenal, honestly, to say
Thank you
that.
so much.
We are going to now talk about breaking party stereotypes. And I want to know, Priyanka ji, that you challenged the narrative around Shiv Sena being misogynistic and promoted self-defense and hygiene for women. How do such actions build ladders in shifting the party mindsets?
No, let me tell you, the biggest narrative the wrong narrative that has been set about Shiv Sena is about its misogyny. In fact, Shiv Sena was a political party which got more women representatives in the municipal corporation by giving them seats out of those reserved seats also. And those women proving them right and winning and coming to the corporation. Their mayors, deputy mayors have been women. And the strongest strength, the biggest strength that came for Shiv Sena was through its women network. There's a very important book which someone had suggested to me when I had joined the Shiv Sena, which was about how powerful especially the women network was in creating and shaping the Shiv Sena of what it is and what it was. And this constant understanding that women are a strong force that we need to work alongside with. So there was nothing that I actually really did except for give it the voice that they're already doing this. And there's a very wrong narrative about them. And those who are in Maharashtra know that there is, they emphasize on women leadership, and it's a strong understanding that they have, and understanding that it comes out of how the political party has risen. That's point one. The second point about health, hygiene, etc., was something again close to my party leadership's heart. That we have to make women feel empowered. We have to give them the ability to do what they want to do, achieve. And I'm a Mumbaikar. My parents came from Uttar Pradesh, which I keep emphasizing. But when I went to Delhi for the first time after my marriage, everybody used to tell me, Delhi is not very safe at evening hours, and there were a spate of such incidents that were happening. And I used to find it very challenging because I came from Mumbai, which has always taken pride in, keeping safe spaces for women. And that a lot of that has to do with Vanya Hindu Hriday Samrat Balasaheb Thackeray ji. In our minds, it was always the case that there was no such places designated as no-go areas for women. And if there are, their shakhas would ensure that it cannot be. So that was the kind of confidence that in our upbringing was instilled in us because of the city and the kind of leadership that was coming from.
True.
When you tell them that you cannot trouble a woman, you cannot behave badly with a woman, otherwise there will be consequences. And people actually adhere to it. That's why Mumbai continues to be the city that it is. So, because it's now become a mental conditioning that you can't do this. So, those are things which I feel that empower women a lot. And this is something that many people do not know of the party, but this is how it is.
Wow. Okay. That was obviously a great awareness for all of us here.
Yeah.
So we now move to the last segment of this talk show, and one of it which really is going to be amusing. I'm sure you play rapid fire throughout the day at Parliament, or while you're walking through your own projects and stuff like that. But we are now going to test your rapid fire round here through the segment where we will request you, Priyanka ji, to pick up the dice.
Okay.
Roll it here on your snakes and ladder, plot,
Right.
and we see where you take the queen up there.
Alrighty.
Okay,
Okay,
3.
just save
So you have
myself.
to move the queen up
1,
to
2,
3. Okay, I'll ask you the first rapid fire round question here. One word women in politics need.
Women in politics need
Need, one word.
success.
Okay, good. Let's play the next. Another 3. Looks like that's your favorite number. Okay. Now the next question. Your political power outfit. I think I know the answer, but I'll still ask. Sari, blazer, or both?
Both.
Okay, all
But
right. Sorry. Yes, that's why I said I know the answer. We'll now move to the next game. That's 2 for you.
That's a ladder.
That's a ladder. Now let me ask you the next question. What's more brutal, a Twitter troll or a live debate in Rajya Sabha?
Twitter troll any day. They impact me more than a live debate.
Okay, wow, wonderful. Let's see where you go up now. That's a 5 for you. Let's see.
That's a snake.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4,
5. You're there. Just 2 more rounds. Hopefully, you're going to,
I'm winning.
use that. Okay. Okay. One law you wish could be passed with just a snap of your finger.
It would have been the women reservation bill because they've kept it pending for. I was part of the historic bill, but it is left for 2029. I would have wanted it to happen that day.
Okay.
That would
that's
have been
one thing.
history.
Awesome. Let's see. That's 5. Okay.
Do we keep playing or do we wait for 2?
We need to wait for 2.
Oh,
okay. So we'll just wait for 2. Now I'll ask you my next question. I get to ask you more questions.
More likely to get
one line that always shuts down a sexist remark.
One line.
From you.
No, I think it would be shut up.
Okay. Let's see where it takes you now. 3.
No.
Okay.
Again a question.
Mike, yes, again a question. What would you name a political thriller based on your life? I really want to know that.
Oh, that's interesting. Political thriller. A woman who couldn't be controlled.
Okay, that's the name. You want to make an English film out of that? You want to make an English film, some Hindi title?
Ek nari sab par bhari.
That's amazing. I like that name. Okay, let's see which filmmaker is picking it up. Okay, 5, no worries. But I'm sure you're going to.
Arey, do kar do yaar. Just count 2 in this and leave 3 for later.
Let me ask you the next question,
Okay,
please.
okay.
If Parliament were a board game, it would be.
Snakes and ladders, not chess.
You have to
not
give me a high
chess.
five for that.
It's not chess. Whoever says and thinks like that,
Okay.
it's not that.
Okay, let's look at the dice
now
rolling.
Please do other.
It is 2. It is 2.
Oh, it is
Yes.
2. Okay, it is 2.
Okay, that brings me.
2 by 2 actually. Come on, guys. But it's okay.
Yeah,
I'll
it
live
brings
with
me
that.
to the last rapid fire question for you, Priyanka ji. That biggest snake in politics you've ever had to dodge.
Snakes who tell you that they're your well-wishers but are backstabbing you on their own free will.
Okay.
Those.
Wow. That was impactful. Did you enjoy the game?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I didn't encounter the snakes, maybe because I'm handling real-life snakes.
Another high five for that, of course. But this brings us to the end of the show. I can't express my gratitude enough. I think today's episode conversation was really powerful and so amusing. So, from the depth of, your real emotions, I think the audience would love it. And for all your ventures ahead, ma'am, we want to wish you all the very best.
Thank you so
From the Snakes and Ladders show team, we have a small token of, appreciation for you. Let me hand it over to you because you have been a true woman elevator.
Thank you so much.
Navigated
Thank you.
the snakes and you
Thank
have
you so much.
Ridden the ladder. So here, this is for you.
Yeah.
I'll just put it in your hand.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Thank you.
Thank you once again.
Thank you so
And
much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
That's
coming
kind
for the
of
show.
you.
Before we end the show, we would like to have your closing reflections, Priyanka ji, on building aspirational confidence. I think that's what women today needs to hear from you. That having overcome motherhood guilt and invisibility in politics, what message would you like to share to inspire other women out there so that they can elevate themselves despite all the societal and personal pressures that they go through?
There was this very important quote I had read. What use are your wings if you don't use them to fly? So there's nothing that stops you from flying. And the wings should be your own self-confidence. So be self-motivated, self-confident. Don't look for the world, agreeing with you. Learn to live in disagreement with the world. And that would be your biggest success story. That is my message to everyone. and all the women, that don't let hesitations hold you back. There's no power on earth that can stop you from this place that you need to own.
Thank you so much. Thank you very
Thank you
much
so
once
much.
again.